I can say, Sherry, I miss you and I love you. I miss you so much. Papa, I'll not sleep until you come back home.
Dad, we love you and we're fighting for you and we'll keep fighting for you until you get home.
Dad, we love you so much and we will fight for you. We know how strong you are. Still strong like you are. You always have been. We will fight until you come home and we will always be on your side.
Papa, uh, we love you. Um, we will stay strong for you.
Dad, we love you. We love you so much. You have been a great role model for us, and everything you taught us, we have internalized it, and we are using it every single day to save your life. Stay strong. We'll bring you home as soon as we can.
Hi, my name is Erin Gruel, and I am an ordinary teacher who had an extraordinary teacher by the name of Paul Rusesabagina. When I began my journey in room 203 in 1994, a horrific genocide was taking place in Rwanda. So the Freedom Riders and I have studied this story for years. And we were so honored to become friends not only with Paul Rusesabagina, but his entire family. We're gathered here today to raise awareness, to raise funds, and a call to action to free Paul Rusesabagina, who was illegally kidnapped and falsely imprisoned in Rwanda. Throughout the next hour, you're going to meet each and every one of his 6 courageous children who've been fighting tirelessly since August 27th for his release. You're also going to hear from his touching and beautiful wife, Taciana, who desperately wants her husband freed to come home. My hope is that those that are watching you are inspired to do. Join us in this crusade. Join us in freeing Rusesabagina. Join us in asking your legislator, your representative, your parliament, or your Senate to help free Paul Rusesabagina, an extraordinary man who was the basis of the film Hotel Rwanda, played by Don Cheadle, an extraordinary man who saved 1,268 lives in the midst of that genocide, an extraordinary man who was given the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President George Bush, and an extraordinary man who has fought tirelessly to give a voice to the voiceless. Without further ado, I'm excited to introduce his family, his kindred spirit, who are now also giving a voice to him. Lise,
Yes.
you are the oldest child of the Rusesabagina family, a blended family of 6, and you were born in Rwanda. So can you tell our audience that will hail from every continent, every country, and every state in America, what your childhood was like being born in Rwanda?
I have got caring parents, and they brought me up with so much love. And until now, we are still together in Belgium. Some a part of them are in America, but everything is okay except the kidnapping of my dad.
Hmm. So, Lise, I understand that you and your family
Yes.
live in Belgium. And what I'd like to do is before you came to Belgium, you
Yes.
you experienced things that no child should experience. You saw things that no child should see. And heroically you survived. And so as a survivor, what was that like leaving Rwanda and coming to Belgium?
Yes, I saw so sad things in 1994. Um, I saw the genocide in Rwanda, and so many people have been killed, and um, we have been hiding in the Milcolin Hotel because my father was the manager, and he tried to shelter everybody who was there, and fortunately everyone survived. And after after the genocide, all Hutus, because my father is both Hutu and Tutsi, but he's officially Hutu. And after the genocide, the Rwandan authorities, the president, the actual president, and the government at that time tried to kill every Hutu who was influential or intellectual. So the Hutus who had studied or who had money, who that did business, they were killed. So that's how my father was threatened, and he tried to flee the country and come to Belgium. As the Milcolin Hotel was Hotel of Sabina, and Sabina was a Belgian company. So that's how we came to Belgium. And until now, we are still there.
So, Lise, as a child of this amazing hotel manager,
Yes.
your father opened the door and let in 1,268 guests. As a child, watching this hotel fill up with people who were threatened, did you understand the heroism that your father was doing at that time?
I did not understand everything at that time. I was 16 years old, and when we were young, my parents did not tell so much about Hutus and Tutsis in Rwanda. They tried to keep us from those things. They just talked about love, about how we can help each other, how we can study and get our diploma, and how we can build ourselves. So during the genocide, I saw my parents worried because there were so many people. We did not have enough food for everyone. So I remember we did not have water, and my father had to negotiate with someone from outside to get trucks of water, and they put it in the swimming pool, and every family went 2 times per day to go and took water from the swimming pool so that we could do everything with that water. So I saw my father, especially my father, but my mom was also worried. But my father was always in his office. He was sending faxes. He was calling Belgium. He was calling France. Everyone who could help us from people who wanted to kill everybody who was in the hotel.
Wow. So, Roger, as a teenage boy
Right.
and living in that hotel that became the basis of the film Hotel Rwanda, did you understand what was actually happening in your city and in your country when the genocide began?
Um, I did understand, and at the same time, we were a bit sheltered. Dad wanted to keep us away from all the craziness. We were not out in the streets seeing things live. We saw things on the way to the hotel, on the way out of the hotel, but when we got to the hotel, we did not see a whole lot. So I guess we try to find some kind of normal just to be able to survive on a daily basis. But you see how calls from people who are um, who had died, family members, friends. That'll get a call, or somebody will try and say, so and so was killed yesterday. So all those were the news we heard, like all day long, sometimes all night long. And but within the hotel, I think dad and working with other parents, other adults, made sure that we kind of stayed away from all the realities, even though we couldn't escape it because you had gunshots day and night, bombs exploding. Um, so we knew the how bad things were. We were glad we were not out of the hotel. You were in that little bubble that could burst at any time. But fortunately, Dad was able to keep that bubble intact until we left the hotel, and that was um, thanks to him, just working tirelessly, try to make sure because we got clear a lot of close calls, and he always found a way. I don't know how. I still don't understand how, um, but we always found a way to keep us safe within our bubble until we all safely left and joined the RPF zone there. That was like I said, free zone, if I can say that way.
Roger, as a child,
Right.
when you turned on the television or you listened to the radio, did you hear the hatred? Did you hear about what was happening in the streets of Kigali? Were you aware that there was this horrible genocide happening outside your bubble?
Oh yes, we were. I mean, you heard on the radio. We had to go from our home, which was about maybe 25-minute drive from the hotel to the hotel. That was a very long drive, the longest drive probably I've ever experienced. Where you saw dead bodies on the road, you saw people with machetes and people with bloody um, machetes, and so we knew, and you just had it constantly. That's all people were talking about. Even though, like I said earlier, that was trying to shelter us from that, you couldn't avoid it because everybody who was in the hotel lost a loved one. Everybody in the hotel had a loved one who was outside, just surviving, trying to make it for the next. Because we were living hour by hour. We're not saying I hope I make it to next month. It was I hope I make it through the morning, then I make it through the afternoon, then through the next hour, and then through the night. And we lived like that for what, a couple months. Um, so we were aware, of course, even though we were not on the ground out on the street. We we definitely that's the only thing that was the only thing to talk about. There was no television.
Roger, I can imagine the powerlessness and the helplessness of wondering why the world stood idly by. And so I wonder, now that you have the world as your audience today, what would you ask of those around the world to know about the situation, how they can stand up, how they can speak up, and how they can speak out for your father?
What he did in '94 to just stand up, take the he didn't have to be there. He didn't have to stand up. He was not the most famous person in the hotel, not the richest person or the most powerful person. He was not a politician. He was just a regular hotel manager who just decided, you know what, I'm going to stand up because the Europeans left, so we're left with just ourselves, and someone had to take the lead, and he did take the lead. Probably the most dangerous job he can ever do, and no one asked him to do it. He stood up and did it. It got him a lot of recognition, around the world, and a lot of people thanked him. People still walk to me to this day, 26 years later, and they say, Roger, your father's a great man. He did this for me. And some people who never even told me before, especially now that after he got kidnapped, I got calls from people saying, "No, I never told you this, but we came to Milk Collins, we had nothing. Oh, your dad helped us get to the Milk Collins. So I just, man, I wish I have told you earlier." And so for that standing up, just having that attitude, that nonsense attitude, got us through the genocide. And my dad, the way he is, he can never just sit around and see people getting abused and not say anything. He just not him, and he can't help it. And that same thing that he did to help people, that's what caused him to get kidnapped. And now his rights are being violated. He's being treated like a criminal. So standing up when he stood up, it paid off because a lot of people were able to be saved. And I think people now standing up, speaking up. You don't have to go to demonstrate in the street. You can just talk to your elected officials. Just send words of encouragement. Just write something on social media. I think just standing up for the truth. Do your own research. People can do research. They don't have to believe what we are saying because you're family members. You can just do a research. Just a little bit of reading. You'll find out the truth, and then you can just act. Don't just sit back and let things happen and just act. It makes a difference. You can save a life. They say even if it wasn't for my father only, there are so many people who are political prisoners, innocent people who are in jails in Rwanda who can be saved too. So your voice can save a life. I think people need to understand that, and the voice is very powerful.
I love that, Roger. Giving a voice to the voiceless. Dion, your beautiful sister Lise and your courageous brother Roger explained a childhood that must have so much post-traumatic stress disorder. And you lived beside them during this atrocity. So as a child, during this genocide, are there memories that you wish you could erase? Are there things that you wish you did not see or know?
We used to feel how strong the situation was, and everyone loved someone outside. So we can't say that we didn't realize. I was young. I was in a primary school, but I just remember how our parents, our father, used to call every morning, the whole day. He used to call in the White House. He used to call to the Elysee in France, in Belgium, to call the Politico to help to stop the genocide, to stop what was wrong, what was happening in Rwanda. But he didn't get help. So now, in nowadays, he was criticized the government of Rwanda, and over 15 years he used to fight to speak for the voiceless, for the person who don't have any kind of they don't have enough place or enough some way or someone or some way to speak. So they tell to him the problems. He used to help everyone he can help, even the time of the genocide. So we as kids, we felt also that how wrong was the situation, and we didn't sleep the night like another kid. We didn't try to go outside, even if we heard some way or something. Even now, if I sit in a room with other people, in an office or something, at my work or something, I never go past the door. I used to go every time so far from the door. There was we used to do like this. So if the military came, they don't fund you directly. So this is something that stay in your some way in your dans ta tête.
No, so Dion, what you're explaining is the ramifications of post-traumatic stress that you, to this day, noises
Yes.
can trigger or
Yes.
doors can trigger, and that the things that you experienced as a child are still with you as an adult.
Yes, they stay with you. The kind of situation, even if you are a child, you realize that something wrong is happening.
Dion, what I love that you watched your father do is something that you and your brothers and sisters are now doing. Your father asked for help. You said
Yes, you asked for it.
he called the White House, he called the Belgian government, he called the world. And now you and your brothers and sisters are doing the same. What is it like for you to now ask the world for help?
I asked the world to help my father, and he helped so much people. His whole life, he used to do this, and this is why he's in prison. He was getting kidnapped to make his noise, to shut up his voice. So we are his voice. We are becoming his voice. Because now he's voiceless, and he needs voice. He needs justice, and the justice for him, it's not to go to the judge. There is no judge in Rwanda. There's no justice in Rwanda. The only justice for him is to come back home. There is no fair trial in Rwanda.
Mm.
If they have the fair trial, they don't need to kidnap him or to detain him in illegal detention. They don't need to kidnap him.
Anais, you are the proud daughter of both Taciana and Paul Rusesabagina. But what I would like you to share with the audience around the world is the family that you love, that is blended and beautiful, is a family of choice, a family that came together under the worst circumstances to create a family under the best of circumstances. So, can you tell our audience about how you became the daughter of Taciana and Paul Rusesabagina?
Yes, of course. So our family is a blended family, and I think that's what makes us sort of interesting. But that's what makes a lot of Rwandan family interesting, because many families are blended, and we heard about the war, the genocide, where a lot of Tutsis were killed, but also a lot of Hutus were killed, and that broke down a lot of families. Unfortunately, it also broke down my own nuclear family, which where my sister and I, Karine, we lost both of our parents in the genocide because of who they were, because they were Tutsi. And so after the genocide, my sister and I were alone. We had no family, but we were lucky that we still had a greater family. My aunt Taciana and my uncle Paul took us in. They took my sister and I and have raised us since then. So even though I lost my biological mom and dad when I was a little younger, a little girl, I was blessed to continue having a mom and dad the rest of my life, and people that I can call mom and dad. So, and it's our family this is unique to our family, but it's not really unique to Rwanda. Many little girls also lost their parents, whether they were Hutu or Tutsi. And so, what you see as a family here, I hope it's something that will show you kind of what the Rwanda picture is. It's not a picture of only Hutus or only Tutsi. It's just blended families all over the countries.
Anais, I think that's so beautiful, the word blended and family. And for you and your sister, families of choice and of making, and love is love. And so I'd like for you to share how your mother and father, Taciana and Paul Rusesabagina, really instilled what love was to you and your sister.
Love is unconditional. That's to begin. Love is unconditional. Where you come from, who you are, love is love. And I think what mom and dad taught us the whole life is that, you know, never forget who you are, be strong, but also, you know, enjoy. And I don't know how to best say it, but you know, like they, whether my because my parents, you know, died during the genocide, doesn't mean that they treat us any differently. They loved us just like their own kids. They loved us like they love Trésor, Mimi, and Sage, and everyone that you'll see here. And we've been reminded that, you know, it's through love that you can carry on life, you know, because it's very difficult what our family went through. And without the support, without the unconditional love in our family, you know, we wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't be a real blended, glued together family, right? And so I think, and this is not unique to just people who live in the genocide. I think anybody who's blessed to like live in a pillar of a couple, my mom and my dad, who, you know, who believe in love, who believe in sisterhood and brotherhood, and who see, you know, who want to make you better, to bring you, to make you a better human being. And I think that's the love part, right? And so if anybody has parents like that, you know, you can assure yourself that you're also really lucky.
Trésor, your sister Dion mentioned a trial. And before there's a trial, your father, that Lise and Roger and Dion talked about being so brave and so courageous, was illegally kidnapped. What was that like when you found that out on August 31st?
When we found out that he was legally kidnapped, that he was taken from us. At least when I found out, it took me a long time to really kind of just grasp the reality of it. It didn't sink in. You know, I think the person that called me was my cousin. And I just didn't believe it. It was like waking up. It was like, you know, it was like a nightmare, really. And I was just waiting to wake up. Really, that's how I can describe it. And it went on like that for a couple more days. You know, it wasn't just that day. It was the day after. I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh wow, this is still real. You know, it's like I mean, I guess the best way I could describe this is like, I mean, you have your whole body and it's like a limb is missing from your body. You know, it's like you're missing an arm or something. You feel incomplete. I still feel incomplete. I still feel like, you know, not 100%. Every time I wake up, I feel like something really, really crucial in my life is missing. And that's because it is. And I reckon that my brothers and sisters feel the same way every day. That's why we fight. That's why we're still here. Luckily, we have the dad that we have, a man who's, you know, I mean, as courageous and as brave as can be. And so, you know, not everybody has that in their life. So I guess we can rest sort of easy knowing that, you know, he's a strong man and he can take this, and then he'll watch his, you know, he'll let his kids fight for him. And we won't stop until he's home.
Corinne, you helped your father, as you have helped your father, travel the world. Your father is a human rights advocate, and your father has traveled the world giving speeches to inspire peace. And your father reached out to you in August and asked you for help. He was going to do a presentation at a church, and he asked you to book an airline ticket for him. So can you take our audience to what it was like in August when you helped your father, and then your father did not end at the location that he was supposed to?
Yes, of course. So I oftentimes help my parents, and as all of us kids, help them reserve their trips or their flights, and it's just quick and easy. And I tend to help him book stuff in general. And so in August of last year, he called saying I need to go to Dubai and just to look for good flights for him. And I booked his return flight for the 2nd of September. And so I knew exactly the amount of time when he was supposed to return. And essentially he got onto the plane. Before he flew to Dubai, I checked in with him to make sure he had all the stuff that he needed, that he had checked in, and so on. When he got to Dubai, we lost contact with him on the first evening. So he first sent a message to our family group saying that happy birthday to my nephew and his grandson, or Diane's baby, who's now actually 18 years old, not so much a baby anymore. But he wished him a happy birthday, and and then mom reached out to dad as well when he arrived in Dubai, and then that's afterwards we lost complete contact with him, and that was on the 27th of August. 3 days later, on August 31st, we woke up I was in Washington, D.C. with Anais, and we woke up to all our cousins, our friends, and family calling us saying that our dad they had seen our dad on TV, and that he was in Rwanda. Um, we were shocked. We were not only shocked, heartbroken, scared, very, very scared, because we know that this government, this president, has tried to go after our father for so many years. We know he's attempted to assassinate him. We know they've broken into our home. We know they've harassed him at events, conferences, human rights conferences, students conferences, anywhere really that he went to. They would go after him and try to intimidate him. And so we knew that if he himself knew that if he ever went to Rwanda, this is equivalent to signing a death sentence for him. So waking up, seeing him in the news in Kigali at the Rwandan Investigation Bureau was not only heartbreaking, but it was terrifying. And then as soon as we found out, we gathered with the family. We tried to not only comfort each other. Thankfully, I was with my sister in DC, and my brothers were together, and my mom was here with her sisters and her family, and our aunts and uncles, and our sisters were with their everybody was with somebody. So no one was alone to deal with this on their own, and it would have been just the thought of any one of us being alone. It's scary to imagine. But we were very thankful that at least we were all together with someone else and to be able to make sense of it. We gathered as a family to try to make sense of it, to try to figure out what the next plan would be. And so from there, in addition to the team and the family and the foundation and all our friends who reached out to figure out what to do, we gathered an international legal team in order to not only represent him, to get him out of there, but also we knew that he would need lawyers. Any person who's arrested or kidnapped would need to be represented. We gathered an international legal team, and then we started reaching out to the U.S. government and to the Belgian government, because he's a Belgian citizen, and asked for their help. We told them he was kidnapped. We told them there is no way he went to Rwanda willingly. There is no way he can be in Rwanda, because we feared for his life. And so things kind of moved on from there.
Taciana, your husband communicates with you every day when he travels. And when you stopped receiving communication on August 27th, what was your feeling? Did you think there was something wrong? Were you nervous when your husband did not send you a WhatsApp message after he arrived in Dubai? What was your greatest fear?
Yeah, that time I lost his voice, and I lost his message. It was on August 27th. Before, when he went to Dubai, he called me as usual. He used to call me at 9:30 p.m. always, because now that time I was in Brussels. I stayed there because of coronavirus. I came on February 15th, 2020. Then I planned to go back in a month. 3 days before, Bridget say the airport is stopped. There are no flight going to the United States. Then I stayed in Brussels during that time. When he wanted to go to Dubai, he called me as usual. He told me, then tomorrow I will go to Dubai. When he went there, when he arrived to Dubai, he called me. He was on the immigration.
as usual, when he arrived in the country where he go, always he called me and he told me that I am now on the immigration. I told him, okay, if you go through, let me know, then we can chat. So he went through the immigration. He tried to call me. It was difficult because of internet in Dubai is so bad. Then we tried to send message in Chaja. He told me, what happened to you? I can't listen. I can't hear your voice. It was hard to talk on the phone. Then I sent him a message, ask him. I don't know why I asked him, are you safe? He said, yes, I am safe. Only I have the problem of internet. Let me call you tomorrow. Tomorrow was Friday. Let me call you tomorrow afternoon. I will call you tomorrow the afternoon. That tomorrow afternoon was Friday, and that time the afternoon didn't come. And I have waiting for the call on 9:30. The 9:30, I didn't receive the call. The following morning, I wait until the evening. It was Saturday. I didn't see the phone. I was scared. Then I I tried to call him, didn't go through. I tried to send a message, can't go through. And on Saturday, Sunday, I called someone that I know he was his friend, and tell him that I can't connect with Paul. He said that someone said, Paul is working. If he's working, let him. Maybe he will call tomorrow. He was really confident that he was on his work. Then the Monday morning, those days I didn't not to go through to him. I was very, very, very scared, and my heart was beating. I don't know why, but on Monday in the morning, my friend called me from France. He told me, Tassi, do you see Paul? He's now in Kigali. I told him, Paul is in Kigali? He said, yes. She immediately sent me the picture, the photos where Paul was in front of the rib, and that time I was done. I was with my young nieces who is now 4 years, and I really cried, and the kids said, Auntie, you scared us. What happened? Don't scare us. So I tried to stop my crying. Then I was done at that time.
Roger, I can only imagine what it was like to watch your father so courageously stand up for people, human lives during a genocide, and how crushing that must have been for you to see your father in handcuffs and imprisoned. So, as his first son, what was that like for you, knowing that your family was breaking, their hearts were breaking? Describe that feeling of seeing your father in the country you left, imprisoned. Describe those feelings.
It's tough to describe those feelings, Aaron. It took me a while to just realize that that was happening. I kept thinking it was maybe just a bad dream, and I was gonna wake up from it. Um, and like Trezor said, our cousin called me and called Trezor. I was asleep, so I didn't hear the phone. So Trezor heard the phone. He woke me up, and we looked at the images together, and he almost melted. And it just for me, just even to this day, sometimes I take sometimes I take like a second to just even just believe that it's still happening, and because that's the worst. That's like the worst nightmare for anyone who knows us, knows our family. And like Corinne said earlier, the Rwandan government has been after my father for so many years since he started speaking up against them, against their human rights violations. So yeah, is and like any child or any human being seeing their parent in handcuffs in a place where he doesn't belong, and that's something that you don't expect. We always thought that something that could happen because of we know what the Rwandan government is capable of, and the way that my father was going after them, exposing all the human rights violations. We knew, at least I used to think, that that's something that can happen, but it's one of the things you just think it will never happen. It's just somewhere in the back of your mind that yeah, it's a possibility, but when you see it happen, it's almost like being struck by lightning. you it takes time to recover from it. I haven't recovered yet, and I think I will never recover until he gets back home. um Especially that when we all know that he does not belong there. He does not belong in handcuffs. um he did his best to stay strong. He was looking like he was yes, he was in handcuffs, but his spirit was not in handcuffs. And I think that was a good message for us to stand up and to stay strong, because if he had been there crying, I think we were all gonna be crying and maybe give up. That's why we haven't given up. I think he that message that he sent us, that I'm here in handcuffs, but my spirit is still free, still with you, and you just guys have to pick up the torch and just carry it and do what you have to do.
Hmm. Lise, I'd like you to describe to the audience about your father's health. I understand he is a cancer survivor and has hypertension. And what has your family's fears been health wise since your father was captured on August 27th?
We are afraid. We are afraid. My father is a cancer survivor, and he normally takes two medicines per day. But from the day that he was taken, he spent a week without taking any medicine, and his uh, uh, blood pressure um, went high, and he could not he could get a stroke. So they took him 2 times to the hospital, but these things did not get normal. Until now, he's still in bad conditions. The hypertension is always high. We are afraid. He takes two medicines, but we don't know where they come from. We sent a lot of medicine via Belgian embassy, and they confiscated everything. So he does not take medicines that his doctors wrote. So that's also a big difficult. And also he lives in bad conditions. He lives in darkness. He stays in a cell where he's alone. Being alone is the most difficult things, and he does not meet people, and he goes outside only 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the afternoon. And there is no light. There is no light where he stays. I think that is very dangerous. We don't know what he eats. All those things make us scared. We are afraid. We are really, really afraid. We don't know what he eats. We don't know what he drinks. We don't know what he takes as medicines. He does not meet correct doctors. He gets only someone who comes and take the blood conditions, things like that. It's very very it's something that hurts. That's really hurts. He calls only 5 minutes per week, and there are people around him. He cannot talk freely. That's also that makes the whole family angry.
Dion, when you were a child, you were exposed to horrific abuse outside of the bubble of the hotel. And one can only assume that your father has experienced horrific abuse in his captivity. So, can you describe what your fears are?
I didn't believe my eyes. I didn't realize really, because I thought this is impossible. My father is an old man, is 66 years old. He's 66 years old. He is not a criminal. He's doing nothing in a prison. So I thought maybe I'm doing a bad dream. It can't be. It can't be that. That's not possible. And I still received pictures, videos about him, and I saw the videos and the pictures. This will be a mistake, and I thought maybe they will realize they make mistake. They release him and let him go because he's doing nothing, and it didn't happen. I don't. I'm shocked to see that.
Ani East. When I think of the Rusesabagina family, I think of just that family, celebrations, big meals. And I realize that your birthday is the first of the year. And so you and your family have had to go through many milestones this last year that you traditionally celebrated as a family. And I want to know what that's been like for you, having these milestones, these holidays, these birthdays without your father here to share that love and to bring the family together.
I think it's tough because these holidays are a little empty. It's tough to celebrate on the New Year's, to celebrate my birthday, to celebrate his favorite holiday without him. It's tough to have Christmas without him. Again, I think he was our glue. Mom and dad are our glue. They carry together. And so, when you have a piece that's not there, it's not the same. But, to what you asked about, again, the love, that he's instilled in us, it's still there. So we are surviving these tough holidays. We're thinking of him, but it's not the same without dad around. We have to adjust what we do. We have to remember that when we're happy, dad is in jail and he's in prison in solitary confinement. So it's tough to be really happy for these holidays. But, at the same time, we cannot forget that these holidays are happening. These milestones are happening too, because these milestones without him are a reminder to why we have to fight, to why we have to continue what we're doing, and to get people on board to help us, because I don't want to spend another New Year's without my dad. And so I know how awful it was and how difficult it was, and I don't want to live that again. And so that just motivates me even more. Like when I think of these holidays, these milestones without dad, we need to do everything in our power to make sure he's back, so we don't live without him. And so, but again, we are a big family, and I think family is the thing for us. That has always reminded us family is the most important thing. And so we still find ways to to stay together and to support each other. And so for New Year's, I was so lucky to be with my brothers Roger and Trésor, and my nieces and Julie, and to be with them and to still appreciate the little bit that we have together, because I know that Dad would not want us to be alone in these days. He would not us want to be crying, just to be commiserating about what's happening, but he would want us to celebrate as well. So we do it for him with difficulty, but we do it for him in the hope that next holidays we will be with him.
Your sister refers to your father as a hero, and your family has been heroically fighting since he was captured. And so can you tell the audience around the world the heroic deeds you have done for this extraordinary man to try to get freedom? And tell the audience the things that you as a collective group have been trying to do to get his freedom.
Yeah, so I, just like my sister said, our father is an ordinary man, but ordinary men can be heroes, I think that's his message. And we've seen him do, the most courageous things. And, and because we grew up with him teaching us about life and about how to fight with our words, how to use our words for the best. And I think that ever since he was taken from us, we've really just sort of practiced that, and I think that as a family, we've done an amazing job. I think we're fighting tooth and nails every day. We're talking to Congress, and we're talking to European Union parliaments, politicians. We're doing things that we never thought that we really could for Dad. I think this makes me think of, when people say that, tragedy or, things, tragedy really just reveals who people are inside. It reveals people's character. And I think that this, although, it is, probably the worst things that could probably happen to our lives as a family, this also has shown people who Dad raised. It's really shown who we are as a family, our character, and that we're all made of a little bit of, we all have a little bit of his strength and his spirit and his courage, and his skill for negotiation. And I'm seeing it through everybody here, that's been here, through Corinne, through Anaïs, to Diane, Lise, Roger. We're all really his children, and it's apparent to see. Of course, we can't do this alone. That's why we're here. We cannot do this alone. I think you asked my brother, or you asked, I think, a few of us, what's it like to watch your dad stand up to injustice? And I think when you asked that, all I can think of was my dad often loved to talk about Bible stories. He I don't know why I just thought of it now, and I didn't think about it before, but he always loved to talk about Bible stories. And one of the main characters of the Bible is Pontius Pilate. And I remember him telling me about him one time, saying, talking about Pontius Pilate, the man that oversaw the death of Jesus. And he would always talk about him like, he had the power. He saw everything happening. He saw what was going on, but Pontius is known for a man that washed his hands of all of it, and this is the lesson, not only about Christianity or anything, it's about life, really. I think my dad decided he was never going to be a Pontius Pilate, and he raised us like that. And I also think of a quote of Albert Einstein. I think he said, "If I were to remain silent, I'd be guilty of complicity. If I were to remain silent, I'd be guilty of complicity." And I think Dad lived by those words. Through this experience, we've seen a lot of people stand up. We've seen a lot of people rise up and really just, fight for things that weren't about them, things that were bigger than them. And I think that I would ask that of the people watching this right now. This isn't, of course, this is us. We're here, the Rusesabagina family. We're here. This is us. This is, this is our fight, but this isn't just our fight. This is everybody's fight. This is bigger than my dad. This is about humanity. It's about courage, and it's about fairness. Really, it's about justice. Um, this man who I call dad, I've seen him. I've seen him, almost give up everything for other people his whole life. And so it rips me apart to know that this is what he gets, because it's my father, you know. But even if it wasn't my father, I would still be empathetic to whoever was going through this. And I just want to say, I'm always surprised by how good people can be, how good humans can be. Of course, there is no surprise when humans are bad, but it should be said that it's good to see when people do good. And through this, we've seen a lot of people donate, a lot of people, call and support. And of course, we're not done. The fight is not over. Dad is still locked up. Dad is still alone. Dad still needs us. And I always say if he was out, and if it was him, he'd be the first one to fight. He'd be the first one to stand up. He wouldn't wash his hands of you. He'd get in there. And I think John Lewis, the late John Lewis, rest in peace. He said, it's time to get into good trouble. And that also makes me think of him. He's the type of man that would get into good trouble. He doesn't deserve what's happening to him, and I'm just appreciative that I see a lot of people willing to get into good trouble to get him out, and I just hope that it keeps going.
Corinne, you are getting into good trouble every day. You have made it your mission, along with your mother and your brothers and sisters, to talk to every government official, every journalist, every citizen, every humanitarian to stop this trial and to get your father free. So can you tell the audience about this looming trial and how we can help to see freedom for your father?
So it has been as tiring and sad and very, our hearts have been broken. Our whole lives have been turned upside down. And the fact is, like all my siblings said, we saw our dad do this our entire lives. We saw him standing up for people. We saw him standing up for justice, even in the face of harassment and intimidation and attempts at his life. So we saw him bravely continue to fight for the people, for the voiceless, for the people who were oppressed, and for the people who are being silenced. And now we're in this position where we are I'm sitting here in Belgium, my siblings are in Belgium, in the US, and my mom, and we have the possibility, we all have not only the responsibility, but also we are in a position to be able to use our voices and encourage other people to use their voices. Because silence, as Tresor put it really well, is complicity. So we want to encourage everyone to speak up, because once you see injustice, you cannot remain silent. And our father never remained silent. In trying to rally support for our father, we've been talking, as you said, to deputies, parliamentarian, congressmen across the world, not only US and Europe and Belgium. We've spoken with people in Australia, in Africa, in the UK, in all parts of the world. And the goal there is not only to ask government officials, so everyone, we all have the power to send an email. It doesn't take too much time. It doesn't take too much effort. It just takes the will to send that message, because that message can make a difference. And to encourage everyone to write to their representatives, asking them to call for the immediate release and unconditional release of Paul Rusesabagina, because he was kidnapped without international warrant, without extradition, against international law, in violation of international law. So in order to uphold the law, in order to maintain the standards that we should all maintain of equality, of justice and human rights, then we should condemn these actions of kidnapping a man like our father and ask for his immediate release. The trial is supposed to start on the 17th of February. But it cannot be a fair trial because not only was he kidnapped, and you cannot expect a man who was kidnapped to get a fair trial, but on top of that, every single one of his fundamental and basic human rights have been violated since he's been sitting in that prison. As my siblings put it very well, he's being denied his rights to medication. He's being denied his rights to his chosen lawyers. He's being denied even the rights to a free and fair call with his family. We speak with him only 5 minutes once a week. And on top of that, he is currently sitting, as we speak, he is sitting in a dark room without light and without electricity. And this is like this from 5 p.m. in the evening until 7 a.m. every single day. He is sitting in the dark without electricity, alone in the cell in solitary confinement. He does not deserve this. Not only is he a hero for having saved so many people during the 1994 genocide, but having continued to speak up for people throughout his entire life, but also he was kidnapped. He was kidnapped against international law, so he should not be sitting in that cell today. And so when we hear people asking for a fair trial, so a lot of people who want to help us, and we feel the intention are meant are well, and we can tell that they want to help us, but then they say, okay, but perhaps he should have a fair trial. But asking for a fair trial legitimizes the kidnapping. It says you can violate international law by dragging somebody across borders to bring them to another country and do whatever you want with them. So asking for a fair trial is legitimizing Paul Kagame's violation of international law and allow him for the train to continue. First of all, he will not have a fair trial based on all those violations of his basic principle human rights that I've mentioned. But on top of that, this is a man who has been trying to kill my father for all these years, who has been trying to smear him for all these years. So expecting any fairness out of the process that is coming forward in the next few days is a joke. It is not true. It's charade. And so while in telling our friends and our family and anyone who listens to us, encouraging them to speak up for us, we want everyone to speak up, and we welcome anyone who's willing to help. But when we ask people to help, we ask them not to ask for a fair trial because he's not going to have one, and he has already been proven that he will not have one in the next 5 months. We would like to ask everyone to write to their representative and have them ask for the immediate and unconditional release of Paul Rusesabagina as soon as possible, because his life is in serious risk and his health is deteriorating every single day.
Anais, I know that you went to Georgetown University. For those around the world, it is in the heart of America's capital, Washington, D.C. And you, as a resident of Washington, D.C. right now, have spent the better part of every day meeting with members of Congress, senators, the same Capitol that we saw with that insurrection is a place that you visit daily, advocating for your father. What has that been like each and every day, setting up meetings with senators and congressional members and the U.S. State Department members asking for help for your father?
First, I never thought in my life, even though I've been living in Washington, D.C. for almost 10 years, that I never thought in my life I would be there trying to get these people to listen to me. And I realized that, we are able to have this meeting because of the hard work my dad has done over the last 15 years. He's not in Rwanda for no reason. He's in Rwanda because the president of Rwanda cannot stand that he criticizes him. Paul Kagame cannot stand that my father has been telling the world and these Washington, D.C. folks for the last 15 years what's really happening in Rwanda. So going to these meetings with my mom and talking to all the senators has just reminded me the work that Dad was doing, that we have to continue this work, but also it's enabled me to give me what he's done, and his legacy has given me the strength to go to these meetings with us and be confident that what I'm saying, that they will maybe listen to me. And we're lucky that they're listening to us. Literally, we passed a congressional letter that was sent, sent to President Kagame, that was signed by 37 members of Congress from the Senate and the House, with the leading leading members of the Foreign Affairs Committees. And so, I couldn't believe it could happen, but that's because Dad's voice has been there, and now it's our turn to use our voice for that, right? And so, we gotta email people and email until somebody listens to us and somebody takes us in that room. And when we get there, we just do what Dad has told us to do and has taught us to do, to say the truth and to fight for the voiceless. Today, he's the voiceless, and they're listening a little bit, and it's working. We had a meeting with Secretary Blinken, I think a week and a half ago, which was quite amazing. He reminded us that my dad, his cause and his fight for human rights is what the United States also is fighting for. He reminded us that he wants the communication to be transparent with the government, the US government, and our family. So that's just to show that, maybe it gave me the confidence to continue forward, but to remind me, the hard work that we're putting into is giving to some results. So now we need to push even more the US government to help us more. Yeah.
Taciana, when you hear the passion, the courage, and the bravery of your children, of your beautiful blended family, are you able to tell your husband on those 5-minute phone calls once a week how hard they are fighting, how much they miss him, and the heroes that they have become in his absence?
Of course. Sometime I told him that he's there, but he has behind the children that he have been raised. He raised them as they are now. He knows that his children are really hardworking, as he have been raised them, and he knows that they are stand for him.
I think in the Paul Rusesabagina spirit, his memoir was an ordinary man. Most of us think of him as extraordinary, but ordinary people can do extraordinary things. So, Corinne, you have been fighting so hard beside your brothers and your sisters, and you've experienced a victory recently with the Parliament of the European Union. So, can you explain to the audience around the world what this victory means to your family for all of your hard work?
Yes, we've been very fortunate that the European Union recognized that our father is being legally detained, and asked for Rwanda to not only provide the details of the details surrounding how they brought him to Rwanda, asked the international community to investigate, to have an independent investigation on his illegal arrest and detention. And this means that everything that we've been saying, all the help that we've been asking for, people are listening. People are realizing that there is injustice happening, that our father is facing illegal and is being held unjustly. And they have spoken up. They signed all kind of over 650 people signed the resolution in favor of our father, asking for Rwanda to not only provide the reasons why and how he got to Rwanda, but that if he was brought there illegally, asking him to release him immediately. So we're very lucky and honored that they recognize what we've been asking for, but we need people to continue to hold, not only to hold the European Union accountable for this resolution, but also to continue to speak up for our father, because he is still sitting in prison in Rwanda illegally, and his health is deteriorating. So we need help to save his life. But we're thankful to the EU for this resolution, and we hope that they will follow through in seeing our father's freedom. In my father's honor, I would like to ask you to write to the Prime Minister of Belgium, or to the Office of the Prime Minister of Belgium, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, asking them to stand up for their citizen that was kidnapped and is being wrongfully detained in Rwanda.
In my father's honor, I would like to ask you guys to please donate to our legal fund, because unfortunately, without the donations, we can't fight. So we need you. We need you to donate, please.
Well, first, I will tell the audience and anybody just watching us, your voice matters. Don't doubt that. Whatever you say, it matters. If you call your representative, you call your senators and tell them, I know a human rights defender, Paul Rusesabagina, who was kidnapped. He's a US resident, a Belgian citizen. He was kidnapped by the Rwandan government, and he's illegally arrested today, and he's fighting for his life. And if you tell this to your senator, if you tell this to your representative and remind them of who my father is, and remind them the fight for human rights, the cause that the United States has really been put out across the world, they will listen to you. Don't doubt that. They listen to me, so why not you, you know? So I would really, really, really love if you could try to do this and call your representative. It will help us a lot, and every voice counts. Every single voice counts.
In my father's honor, I would like to ask you for please go visit Free Rusesabagina on social media and on the website.
In my father's honor, would you please write to your elected officials, your congressmen, your senators, and ask them to put pressure on the Rwandan government so they can release my father and he can come home to his family and continue his human rights uh, activist work?
In the honor of my father, please write to the Belgian and European deputy. Thank them for the fantastic job that they did today, and please advocate for us in the social media, on Twitter, on Facebook.
In my husband's honor, please try hard, if it is hard, to write to Paul Kagame, ask him to release my husband as soon as possible, because my children need him and I miss him.